The Farlands are one of Minecraft's most well-known glitches. This distance bug is still being talked about, even after almost 15 years since it was officially fixed. But the Farlands didn't always look like this. In the very first version they appeared in, they looked completely different. First, let's take a look at Minecraft Indev, the last development period before the game had infinite worlds. Here there are no Farlands because terrain is finite. All distance related bugs in this version are just rendering issues. Also, what you see out of the map isn't actual terrain, it's just a rendering trick. If you go very far out, even the fake terrain stops rendering, and even if it did, selection boxes show how broken it would be. As for other limits in this version, once you go out of the world, the game pushes you back to the playable area, and the further you go, the faster you get pushed. Now let's move on to the first infinite world iteration, Indev 2010-0227. This version is famous for the brick pyramids and obsidian walls marking the cardinal directions. Aside from that, it's very basic, since the point of this version was to test infinite terrain. This is also the first version where the Farlands appear, but due to a completely different terrain generator they look nothing like the Farlands we know from later versions. In this version they generated about 33.5 million blocks out. They appear as a giant stone wall, and past this point all terrain is just flat stone. Similar to Indev, this version still has precision issues related to rendering. This causes blocks to snap around as floats can't represent every number due to precision loss. I fixed this in my model clan so you can see the Farlands without blocks falling apart when I move the camera. Here's how this looks at a closer distance. Even here it is very bad, and gets worse the further you go. The main cause for the Farlands is an integer overflow. When coordinates become large enough, the numbers used in the noise formula overflow. In this version the noise mostly affects the top block in a column. When the number becomes large enough, the game fills the terrain up to 2 billion blocks, theoretically. Since world height is capped at 128, it only fills up to that limit. If the world had infinite height or supported full 3D chunks, the terrain would probably be chaotic and unpredictable. Finally, in Indev 2010-0327 the terrain generator was rewritten, and this rewrite is still the foundation for Minecraft's terrain generation today. This version of the terrain generator is the first to generate the well-known Farlands shape, which appear at around 12,550,831 blocks. They are not an exact replica of the later Farlands, as the noise is still slightly different, but they already have that familiar sponge-like appearance. This version also has a hard limit at 32 million blocks. This is a developer-imposed limit, not a bug. If you load chunks near this boundary, the game will freeze while calculating lighting, eventually consuming all memory and crashing the JVM. Again, this is just a consequence of the hard limit, nothing to do with noise overflows or glitches. Next we have Indev 2010-0611. I'll be using my modded version of Indev 2010-0618, which is functionally the same. This version introduces another terrain overhaul which also causes monoliths to generate. I have already made a separate video on monoliths, so feel free to check it out for more details. As for the Farlands, they are mostly unchanged, but with this rewrite they resemble the beta Farlands more closely. They are also slightly less dense thanks to the new hill noise system, which would later evolve into biome-based noise. And again there is the hard 32 million block limit here as well. Then we have Indev 2010-0624, which introduces a nasty jittering effect. This gets worse the further you go. Contrary to how it appears, this isn't a movement bug, the problem is caused by rendering. And more specific, casting doubles to floats, which loses precision. From this point onward I will be correcting this bug silently since it's just a visual annoyance. This bug persists in the game until beta 1.8, when the Farlands are officially fixed. Next is Alpha 1.2.0. This version introduces full biomes and overhauls the terrain generator one last time before beta 1.8. This fixes the monolith bug and stabilizes the Farlands into the shape they would retain for the rest of their official existence. Alpha 1.2 also introduces the Nether, giving us another dimension to explore. The Farlands in the Nether look very similar, but still have some minor differences due to different noise constants being used. At this point the world can generate past 32 million blocks using so-called fake chunks. However, these chunks aren't fake at all, they are fully generated. But the game has checks which just return air blocks beyond 32 million. Again, this is an intentional limit, not a bug. The world can generate up to the 32-bit integer limit, at which point terrain generation stops entirely. If the rendering issues from the float casting are not fixed, terrain appears far away at extreme distances. In the Nether, the Farlands behave the same way. At 32 million blocks you simply fall through the world. and lighting stops being calculated entirely as every block is being treated as air. Then we reach beta 1.7.3. Here we can also add another dimension, the sky dimension, which would later evolve into the end. It wasn't added in beta 1.7, but in my modded client it's accessible, and there are no changes from beta 1.6, so I can just show it here instead of modding beta 1.6. The farlands in the sky dimension are a bit different, flatter and wider due to different noise constants. I will also use my modded client to showcase the end in beta 1.7.3 to skip modding release 1.0. As a bonus, I have also recreated the beta end using white cobblestone from beta 1.9 pre-release. As the end uses pretty much the same noise constants from the sky dimension, the farlands shape is very similar. And finally, here's the regular end dimension. Here the farlands will remain unchanged for the rest of the video, so I won't mention them again. As for the regular farlands, there are no differences in beta 1.7.3. This is the last version where they officially exist, however. Starting in beta 1.10, the farlands will be fixed. From this point, without mods, only the vertical y-axis farlands can still occur. In some versions you can increase the noise scale to generate these y-axis farlands at spawn. Since world height is capped first at 128, then 256 and finally 384, vertical farlands usually don't appear naturally. For this reason they are excluded from the beta 1.8 patch that fixes the horizontal noise overflow. Now let's look at the actual world limit in this version, ignoring the farlands. Functionally it's almost identical to beta 1.7.3. The main difference is that the world is hard capped at 30 million blocks instead of 32. Beyond this, most game logic stops working as it is being disabled, but terrain can still generate up to the 32-bit integer limit. The next meaningful change to world boundaries happens in release 1.3. This was a major rewrite of the game, introducing full clan server architecture even in single player. This results in commands being available in single player, but teleporting past 30 million blocks triggers an invalid position error. If you somehow move past the border, the server eventually kicks you for the same reason. Terrain generation stays largely unchanged up to release 1.7. In this version, the world generator, particularly biomes, gets a major rewrite, which is still used today. The farlands also change slightly. Terrain now generates up to the 256 height limit, making farlands much larger. You can even generate mesa farlands, which look pretty cool. In the Nether and 10, farlands remain 128 blocks high, since those dimensions still generate only up to the old height limit. The world border in this version is implemented in a very basic way. All blocks past 30 million are returned as solid stone, so you can't move past this boundary and the teleport limitations remain. Next we have release 1.8. It officially adds the physical world border. Moving past 30 million blocks becomes even harder. The game enforces additional checks, so even if you bypass the border, the game treats you as if you were at 30 million blocks. Terrain doesn't generate or render beyond a few hundred blocks from the border. If these checks were removed, however, the world could generate all the way up to the 32-bit integer limit. This version also introduces custom worlds, letting you increase the vertical noise scale to generate y-axis farlands in vanilla. As I have mentioned earlier, the farlands fixed back in beta 1.8 only clamps the x and z axis, so by increasing the vertical scale you can generate the vertical farlands near spawn, which were never fixed. As for the farlands, they are identical to release 1.7. The world generator didn't change, except for adding a few stone variants. The vanilla world border behavior remains unchanged up to today, so I won't mention it further in this video. The next major rewrite of the game is in release 1.13. This version is known for bad performance, and probably has some issues running on a modern Intel CPU, as I get horrible stuttering. And the farlands remain the same, as the core noise system hasn't changed. In release 1.14, a new generation bug appears in the end. At coordinates around 370,720 terrain breaks, then resumes, then breaks again in a repeating pattern. This affects the farlands as well. Also, the lighting engine was rewritten. At 32 million blocks, lighting breaks completely, which can cause crashes in later versions if movement checks are patched. In 1.16, the Nether update doesn't change the farlands core shape in the Nether, as it just introduces biomes but doesn't change the underlying Nether generation. But there are some other changes I will mention later. The last version with the classic farland shape is 1.17.1. Originally this update was going to be the full Cliffs and Caves update, but later got split, so world generation was basically reverted into 1.16.2, making this the final version with the classic farland shape. And finally we reach the most impactful terrain rewrite since Indev 2010-0327. While technically Minecraft had used 3D noise for years, terrain generation was still largely column based, with biomes existing only in 2 dimensions. In 1.18 the generator becomes fully volumetric. Terrain, caves and biomes are all defined in true 3D space. For the first time since Indev 2010-0327 this causes the farlands to change shape dramatically. This iteration of the farlands is by far the most interesting, and it's the one you almost never see, as it existed for such a short period. It still carries hints of the classic farlands, but they are fast passer, breaking apart into these massive room-like structures. If you want a full breakdown of the 1.18.1 farlands and the fabric mod so you can explore them yourself, let me know by liking the video and leaving a comment. Now let's look at what changed for the nether farlands in 1.16. For this I'll be using 1.18.1, but the nether farlands are the same. When the farland generates in the nether, the bedrock, ceiling, floor or both can get overwritten by air blocks, depending on the seed and version. Aside from the missing bedrock, the farlands look the same as usual. The main difference is that you can explore the nether without a ceiling, which gives a very different perspective on terrain. And with that we come full circle, all the way back to the Indev farlands. Unfortunately after 1.18.1 comes 1.18.2, which once again completely changes how the farlands look, but this time instead of becoming more interesting they change back to a giant stone wall, almost identical to the very first farlands from Indev. The difference now is that the terrain is fully 3D, so noise caves still generate, and the top isn't perfectly flat anymore. As you have seen, the farlands changed a lot over time. They didn't always look the way they do today. Their shape, density and behavior evolved alongside Minecraft's terrain generator itself, and eventually they disappeared entirely. Starting with beta 1.8, the horizontal farlands can no longer generate. The noise generator clamps its inputs to prevent the integer overflows that caused the farlands in the first place. Without mods they can never generate. There are no hidden 64-bit farlands waiting beyond the world border. The original farlands existed because of a bug, and once that bug was fixed they were gone for good.